Tony Gambill brings more than 20 years of executive experience delivering impactful coaching, consulting, and leadership solutions within global for-profit, nonprofit, research, government, and higher educational industries. He has proven experience collaborating with organizations and delivering meaningful results in the areas of leadership development, executive coaching, talent development, team effectiveness, and strategic planning. He is a Forbes leadership contributor and the co-author of the upcoming book, Getting It Right When It Matters Most, published by Business Expert Press. I'm so glad you're able to join us today, Tony.
Oh, thank you, Jacqueline, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
So you've written quite a few LinkedIn articles that have gone viral, some of them getting over 100,000 likes. What do you think is the secret sauce behind this?
It's a great question. I wish I knew the secret sauce behind it. I can only say how I approach writing because I can't predict what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. What I know and sort of the style that I bring to it is I really try to understand who I am, where my expertise is, and what's my niche or my style. And my expertise is around talent development, leadership development, organizational effectiveness, and I know that, and that's my expertise and my depth. My style is to really take things that I'm learning from my clients and the people, executives that I'm coaching and the executive teams I'm working with, and when I hear something that's recurring, I start to say, oh, that's something I probably should write about. And the other thing about how I write is I like to write where there's practicality and there's tangible takeaways. And so in any of the things that I write, my intent is that there's something that somebody could apply if it's useful in their context immediately. And so just staying true to that and just knowing sort of where my lane is and what I enjoy and where I feel like I bring my strengths.
And you recently started writing for Forbes. Have you noticed your writing shift any for that platform, or is it similar to what you post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, Jacqueline, my style hasn't changed. I am who I am. I bring the weaknesses I bring the strengths to any context. And I know my depth and my style. What has changed and what I'm still learning is really understanding how to leverage different platforms. And so let me give an example. I wrote an article probably 3 or 4 weeks ago on Forbes, and you need to wait like 5 days before you can share any content from that after Forbes. But anyway, about 3 weeks after I wrote the article, and the article got pretty good traction on Forbes, but 3 weeks after, I went to LinkedIn and I wrote a post, which is a lot shorter. It was just a highlight of it. And the post got like 30,000 views and a lot of likes on that same content. And in my first comment, I put the link to the post on Forbes in the comment section. And that drove people back to Forbes to look at the entire article. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm learning how to be more synergistic, get bigger bang for the buck for the time I'm investing, and trying to reach as many people as I can.
Yeah, sounds smart. Speaking of trying to reach different people, you have now written a book, congratulations, and it's titled Getting It Right When It Matters Most. And when I was looking at what it covers, it talks about being perplexed, talks about being defeated, talks about being threatened. And I am like, yes, I have felt all of that every single week for this past year. Can you tell me more?
I'm sorry, what was the end of the question?
Can you tell me more about this? Because obviously I need to learn how to cope with this.
No, thank you for that. So first and foremost, it's a co-author book, and I want to acknowledge Scott Carbonara, who is my partner in writing the book. And so those feelings are absolutely a part of the book, but it's in a bigger picture. And the book's really focused on how do you bring your best self to your what we call moments that matter. And when we think about moments that matter, they're important, complex, and relational situations and moments that we encounter, which we all encounter a lot. And we have this last year encountered a lot of those. To your specific point about those feelings, these moments that matter help impact us by eliciting those types of emotions, right? The perplexed, the fear, the anxiety around those. And so the book's really a broader picture in relation to how do we bring our best selves to those situations, and in relation to what you were talking about, managing those emotions, figuring out what are the right actions to move forward, and how do I continually grow and bring self-awareness so I can bring my best self.
And just like you were talking before about your writing, I like that you talk about it on a theoretical level and then give very practical tips of walking you through what you can do to bring yourself back into the present moment. You also cover the SOAR self-leadership model in your book. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, that is really the framework for the book. I've worked in talent development, executive development, leadership development for more than 20 years, and been led functions in multiple global organizations in that space. The reason I say that is because what I've learned through that is today's world, knowledge and skills is really available to most people through technology. I saw a stat, and I wrote it in an article, that in 2019, globally, there was more than $370 billion spent on leadership development. So the issue isn't people not having the knowledge and skills available to them. The real issue for folks to be successful professionally and personally is self-leadership. It is, how do I bring my best self? And in those situations, everyone can acquire the right knowledge and skills if they have enough desire and they have access to a computer. I'm the magic sauce. Self-leadership is the magic sauce. And what we know is those that excel in organizations and leaderships and promotion with relationships at home are the best at self-leadership. But we don't bring the same rigor to that, nor the same investment to that. So SOAR was my really reflection and understanding and struggling with that challenge and coming up with, how do we put together a model that is person-centric about how we engage these situations, and that focuses on the fewest most important things that enable us to be successful. So SOAR stands for self, outlook, action, and reflection. And just real quickly, any complex, harder situation, I bring myself, right? So we need to bring some level of self-awareness, our strengths, our weaknesses, our values, our goals in that setting. And then when we engage with a harder situation or a moment that matters, is what we call it, then we need to understand how ourself in that moment are interacting in relation to how we're viewing that situation, our outlook. And understanding in our outlook, we all bring perception biases. What are those? How do we manage those? But also the emotions you talked about. We feel those emotions in those situations because they're important, they're complex, they're relational, and we have something to lose because we care about them. And how do we manage our emotions? And we talked a little bit earlier about how to manage those emotions. So bringing and choosing our best outlook, and bringing our best outlook and also our best long-term goals to that action. So the next piece is action. And what we cover in action is around, what are the actions that we need to take to be as effective as we can? And in our world, those actions are conversations, and we call them high stakes conversations. We talk about, how do you build empathy and trust? Because these situations are relational, therefore we need to be successful, we need to engage others. How do we lead with quality questions? What is a framework for high quality or high stakes conversations? How do you engage? And then how do you deal with defensiveness? And the R is for reflect, and our reflection, and that's really, how do I bring learning? How do I continually evolve? How do I practice? How do I get feedback? How do I reflect so I can bring back to self, to be more self-aware, so I can bring a better outlook the next time I engage, so I can choose better actions and then reflect again. And it's in that cycle. And that's the SOAR model, really to make self-leadership tangible and accessible for people to understand what are the fewest most important things I need to do to be successful with self-leadership.
That is super interesting to me, especially because right before I got on this interview, I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, which is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, and his most recent interviewee, I'm trying to remember the name of the author who wrote the book on emotional intelligence.
Marshall Goldsmith?
Thank you. But they were talking about when they polled engineers about who was seen as the best engineer in the group, it wasn't the smartest because, yes, did you have to be smart in order to get into that group? Absolutely. But once you're in the group, maybe I know that I hadn't realized that it's more that awareness and knowledge of self and everything that you just listed out right there in SOAR that gave them the heads above the rest, not that knowledge piece. And I hadn't put it in perspective, but it resonates absolutely with what you're saying right now.
Yeah, the knowledge and skills is the cost of admission. That gets you in the door, but that does not guarantee success. It is self-leadership is the secret sauce. How effective am I at managing this in complex, important, and relational situations? And that's what he was speaking to, those engineers. My career's been and mostly around mission-driven organizations and very technical people. I worked with a global research organization, Virginia Tech University, and then a conservation organization, all scientists, all researchers. But to your point, for them to be great, it was more than just the knowledge and skills that they acquired. But we don't, as a society, put the importance on the self-leadership. And so that's why this space was so important to me. And it was really what, in my previous roles, I had responsibility for putting together processes and identifying who our high potentials were and helping develop them and move them forward. And the truth was, our high potentials, the reason they were high potentials is because they were more advanced at getting it right in their harder situations, which went directly back to they were more effective at self-leadership.
So we've been talking about you helping coach others through hard situations. I'm curious to ask you now how you've dealt with a challenging situation and turned it into a potential future opportunity. What does that look like in your experience?
Yeah, well, I make a lot of mistakes, so I get a lot of opportunities for that. But here's the situation, and it's interesting for me. I probably 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I got my dream job. It was a job with a global organization, mission driven, the scope I wanted. I had all of the responsibilities that I wanted in my space. It was absolutely my dream job. And for 7.5 years, it was tremendous because I was growing, I was learning. And then at year 8, I started to realize that I wasn't growing a whole lot anymore. And I had brought in a lot of talented people that were fully capable of doing the work that I enjoyed doing. And I started, and I hate to admit it, but it's true, I started to actually start doing some math about, well, if I make this much money for this long, how long do I have to do that? And I almost felt like I started to wish time away. And I'd never been at that in that space. So that was my big reset. And at that point, I chose to go out on my own. I chose to start to write this book. chose to start writing articles. I'm a beginner at so many new things right now. I'm a beginner at this. I haven't done this before. You're the types of conversation. 2 years ago, I was a beginner at writing articles. I've written like 80 articles in 2 years now, right? I was a beginner at posting. Before May 3rd is when our book's coming out. I've never written a book. I've been a beginner. Running my own, my own leadership consulting firm. I'm a beginner. I've had to take a step back, and it's been so engaging, and it's been so motivating and hard as well. But that's where my space is. So that was sort of a huge reset for me because I had led 3 different functions in a row, and I knew that. But to take that leap, and it's making all the difference. I can see for the next 20, 25 years, work that I want to do and growth that I want to have. And so that's been a major reset. And then obviously the reset of the pandemic about how you engage people in that, which a lot of people have gone through, but that's made me look at the world better. So it's just a really good spot, and a really good spot for taking a step back for me to be able to in the future take multiple steps forward.
I love your approach to this. So if anyone else besides me wants to continue following your work as you continue to branch out into new avenues, what is the best way to do that?
So LinkedIn is great. You can follow me on Forbes Leadership. My company's website is clearviewleadership.com. So you can visit me there. And you can keep an eye out on May 3rd for Getting It Right When It Matters Most, Self-Leadership for Work and Life. It'll be available on Amazon on May 3rd. So check it out. Love to be able to connect and share with folks.
And we will include all of those links in the comments below, including the link for purchasing the book on Amazon. Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It is always a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, Jacqueline, thank you. And thank you for... I don't know that folks, I know folks don't know. We met through LinkedIn, and you've been tremendous person of sharing information back and forth, and also connector. And the relationship with you has been really beneficial. So people should know that beyond this, that when you connect with people, you really invest in them. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's incredibly kind. It's been my absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please click like below and also subscribe to see future episodes.